Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started. We're thrilled to have you here this morning. My name is Elizabeth Aloni, and I'm with Schneps Media. Schneps Media is the largest local media company with over 70 newspapers, magazines, websites, webinars, podcasts throughout Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, Westchester, Long Island, and Philadelphia. Today, we are thrilled to have experts with us talking about tech agility, which is critical to succeed in school and business. And I'm thrilled to introduce Paul Trapani of LISTnet, the president of LISTnet, who will be our moderator this morning. Paul, please.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and welcome everyone to this webinar. Very excited today because I think this is a good topic. For those that don't know, LISTnet is Long Island Software and Technology Network. We exist as a chamber of commerce for the tech industry on Long Island, and our mission for the past 25 or so years has been to create a strong technology ecosystem here on Long Island. That's become more important than ever, and we're very grateful to work with the Long Island universities, the Long Island businesses, local government. A lot of times people don't realize the strength of the tech community here, and that's one of the things that we do. We're entirely supported by members. You can check out our website at www.listnet.org to get some more info about us. Also want to just quickly mention something that we're going to be doing with Long Island Press that we're excited about. It's an event we've done in the past, and it's called the 20 Top Techies. So this gives all types of companies on Long Island a chance to nominate the people that help keep their technology running smoothly. That includes people that set up email, design and build websites, fix crash laptops and computers, manage and update servers, keep data secure and backed up, and build new software. And I'm sure some of the people listening and watching either are people like that themselves or know of someone that can be nominated. We'll have the nomination form up on our site fairly soon, but if you can't wait, send me an email at paul@listnet.org, and I'll be happy to forward that to you. So today we're going to talk about tech agility, and we're very glad to have two deans with us from NYiT, New York Institute of Technology, and SUNY College of Old Westbury. So first up, Dr. Babak Behesti is the Dean of the College of Engineering and Computer Science at NYiT. Dr. Behesti, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words?
Thank you, Paul, and good morning, everyone. I'm honored to be here with my colleague Raj to have a conversation today. Looking forward to it. As Paul mentioned, I'm with the New York Institute of Technology, New York Tech. The College of Engineering and Computing Sciences spans our two campuses on Long Island in Old Westbury and in New York City at Columbus Circle. Between the two campuses, the College of Engineering has about 2,000 students, 500 enrolled in our graduate programs, and about 1,500 in our various undergraduate programs, including computer science, engineering, and so forth. And I would end with very quickly sharing a point of pride. We've been nationally recognized for a number of years continuously. The results of the 2021 U.S. News and World Report rankings just came out, and College of Engineering was ranked the number 46 best undergraduate engineering programs nationally with no doctorate programs. So very proud of what my colleagues, the faculty, staff, and the students have accomplished. And with that, I pass it on to my colleague, Raj.
Thank you, Babak. My name is Raj. I'm the Dean of School of Business at SUNY Old Westbury, which has about 5,000 students, 1,000 of which call School of Business their home. Two major departments with 30 full-time faculty and approximately 20 adjuncts in any given semester. We do have graduate programs in accounting, and point of pride for us is the first MS in Forensic Accounting on Long Island that we launched last year. And check us out. Today's conversation is of interest to us because our mission states that the School of Business will provide access and support to empower our students. And so this conversation completely fits in with that. Thank you for inviting me to this, Elizabeth and Paul. I appreciate it. I'll hand it back to you, Paul.
Okay, so thank you both. I just want to say for the audience as well, one of the things that LISTnet tries to do as an organization is be the connector to the various colleges and the right people at those colleges if people are looking for interns or to hire graduates. So again, if you want to connect with some of the Long Island universities, NYiT or SUNY Old Westbury, contact us at LISTnet and we're happy to make connections with those people. So the title of our webinar today is Tech Agility, and we're defining tech agility as the ability to quickly adapt to new, different, disruptive, expansive, or convergent technologies. This has always been important as technology has really pervaded all aspects of business, and all businesses have had to adopt technology in one form or another. What makes it even more critical today for students and business professionals to develop tech agility?
Babak, please.
Thank you. I'll take a crack at it. So, and I'm going to focus my response, Paul, to the COVID and post-COVID world. What I've been saying, for many months is that the COVID has not necessarily changed the future, but it has accelerated the future. So the impact that we've seen in the business world immediately, and I do not think that it will go away post-COVID, is this move part of many parts of the business world to work from home. And the work from home has brought a whole bunch of new paradigms with it. For example, the employees, the professionals need to be a lot more agile and self-reliant in terms of picking up new technologies, in terms of being able to teach themselves new techniques and concepts to keep functioning in a business environment that's now operating remotely. You don't have your boss that can provide you the day-to-day supervision, so that self-reliance, self-management becomes a lot more important. And I would say that the necessity for one to be able to present oneself has become a lot more important. So the business travel has, significantly been reduced. Who knows when or if it's going to go back to its pre-COVID levels. So business meetings, whether it is with a customer, whether it is with a potential partner in the business and so forth, you need to do your presentations a lot more effectively, through web tools, which means that you need to be a lot more convincing now that person-to-person human interaction factor is not there. So overall, there is so many parameters that have been brought to the business world so quickly that technology has become the center of it all. We need to be digitally savvy and to be able to adapt to new technologies very quickly.
To add to that thought, I like the word accelerant. This was always in the pipeline. In the last 15 years, data reveals that working from home had tripled. The numbers were small, but they were growing. This pandemic, as Babak pointed out, has acted as an accelerant. Picking up on from where he left and looking at the schools, remember, for all the changes that Babak just mentioned, I am responsible as a teacher in my classroom to prepare my students to learn from it today in the classroom and beyond when they join the workforce. So essentially, if you look at our mission in the last year, the Faculty of School of Business replaced the word students with learners. We are in the business of developing learners. Learners learn, students study. Hopefully you see the nuance there. We are trying to create individuals that are committed to lifelong learning. And I hope you get a chuckle out of this, but we got a dose of our own medicine in academia. We are learning every day as teachers, as students, the new dynamics of the classroom before we can turn our students into learners that see us model it every day in our classroom, see us grapple with technology, see us getting Zoom bombed or a mic turning off mid-sentence or network blinking off because of bandwidth issues. We are learning that. How do we teach? How do we learn in the business? How do we accomplish, still continue to accomplish? Again, to remind you what Babak pointed out, supervision is self-motivation becomes the issue. Well, guess what? In the classroom, that's important too. Assignments that are due, and at work assignments, what's due and expected is due, whether you're supervised every day or periodically. I'll join back in as the conversation progresses. Paul?
Okay, so I like what you both said, especially about lifelong learning. Besides being president of LISTnet, I also am a practicing technology professional. I started out as a developer, and now I do software analysis and design. I got my master's, and I think about when I graduated with my degree between then and now, that was in the early 2000s, and how much has changed, and having to keep up with that. Some of the things I do for that, or I keep a membership in the ACM, which is the Association of Computing Machinery. I try to do ongoing webinars and whatnot. What are some of the ways that you guys would think that learners and professionals can improve their tech agility and be better at these things going forward?
This time I'll start us off.
Sure.
So building on our thoughts from prior, I appreciate what you just said, Paul, and you are being modest. You also teach. I know that you have done that regularly, but you are keeping up. Despite your experience, despite your education, you feel compelled to be members in professional organizations, to interact with people, to share knowledge the way you're doing it today, and to generate knowledge. And so it's an interesting fact that no matter where we are all learning every day. Somebody once mentioned in a context of learning strategy from the military, and they said, the SEALs, the Navy SEALs often say, slow is smooth, smooth is quick. It's an interesting way of looking at things. When you're planning, when you are strategizing, slow is good. Once it's operational, quick is needed. We are trying to teach our students and in the workplace to find creative solutions that are limited only by your imagination and resources to existing problems and anticipate new issues and challenges that are coming. Remember, slow while planning and strategizing, but the need of the hour is to be quick when you actually implement it. Babak?
Thank you, Raj. Well said. So I would probably add a couple of things here, but Raj really covered it well. The mindset of the lifelong learning is really the key factor in here. STEM fields and technology fields, we sort of knew that half-life of whatever we learned in college was about 5 years or so. So that mindset needs to be a lot more universal, regardless of what business sector professional is in. Again, it gets emphasized because we've been in a gig economy for a while, and I think we're going to have a much more prevalent gig economy going forward, which again emphasizes the need for one to be really in charge of their careers, look around the corner, sort of anticipate what's next, and prepare themselves for that. So a couple of strategies that I would recommend in the context of your question, Paul, is internet is a vast expanse of, or sometimes you could consider it a wasteland of information. It is very important to be able to identify vetted information, accurate information amongst all the, anybody can put a training video on YouTube. Anybody can come up with tutorials, but how many of those are actually correct? How many of those are factual? So joining professional organizations, in my opinion, more so than ever before, is critical. It allows you to networking. Again, in a remote world, it becomes a lot more critical. Allows you to learn about the trends and, you know, upcoming sort of technologies in your particular business sector. But also, many of the professional organizations have means, you know, through their, you know, conferences, through, you know, their workshops and so forth, to give you a filtered, vetted resource in terms of the information. And I would just simply finish by saying that, as Raj said, being of the mindset that you are, you know, in charge of your learning, self-paced, self-managed learning throughout. You know, there is no concept of graduation and going to work anymore. We're constantly learning. So pass it on back to you, Paul.
Sure. So what's interesting to me about the idea of the self-paced and all that, one of the first things that I saw quickly in graduate school was the difference how more of the expectation was on me to learn. And I remember I had a very good experience as an undergrad as well, that one of my professors, a philosophy professor, made each student teach a chapter in the book. And at the time I was an undergrad and I was like, wow, this guy's really lazy and he doesn't want to do any work. But it wasn't true. He ended up having to do more work, but it really instilled the concept of you are responsible for your own learning and developing yourself, and teachers are there to help you do that. So regarding that, obviously the way of teaching has changed and the way of learning has changed. Kind of last March, everyone kind of got dumped into this all at once and people had to quickly adapt, and you're both involved in teaching the workforce of tomorrow. So what are some of the changes that you had to do all of a sudden last year, and now you've kind of implemented better ways of handling these things, and how are they preparing students for today and tomorrow as well?
Okay, thank you. Right. So I'll share what you know, we've done and you know, my take on it, and there's a lot in common in my conversations with Raj, we both have experience. So as Paul mentioned, in March of 2020, students in universities around the world, but in particularly in the US, were hurled into what today we call emergency remote teaching, ERT. This was brought out by the necessity of putting people, you know, in a safe place at home or away from campus and so forth. And uncharacteristically of the academe, that, you know, we usually move, you know, at glacial speeds, the academe responded very quickly, right? So significant investments were made by the universities in terms of infrastructure, that is bandwidth, access to software, remote access to software licenses and so forth, audio visuals, tablets, learning management systems, as well as all of the training that goes along with that. Still, it wasn't perfect. I think students are very forgiving, and the faculty were extremely, you know, adaptive in face of what has faced all of us. I would say that now, starting fall semester and going forward into next spring semester, students, our learners who are, you know, typically a lot more digitally native than their, you know, faculty are going to be a lot less forgiving. So the concepts that worked, you know, I mean, all of us have, you know, years, decades of teaching experience. By looking at the student in the face, we will know whether they picked up material or they lost or whatnot. A lot of that goes away in a remote learning environment. So the faculty need to sort of readjust themselves from the role of the sage in the classroom that, you know, Aristotle gave the lectures and everybody sat over there and learned, to a facilitator, Again, going back to Roger's comment of students are learners now, right? Facilitate learning. So the changes that I see are going to be around for the long haul with us are much more reliance on digital means of delivery and augmenting the learning process, because it opens up a lot of doors that otherwise would not have been possible. And also reliance on new techniques, flipping the classroom, project-based learning, collaborative learning, problem-based learning. Again, a shift from the traditional lecture that would really put the burden of learning on the students, make them be in charge of their learning. And these are good. They actually line up exactly what we've been talking about in terms of lifelong learning and the habits that need to be formed to be successful in their careers. So Raj?
Thank you, Babak. And very quickly, I must acknowledge exactly what you said, the agility that my faculty has shown in adapting to the realities that were presented to them in a hurry in March and now. So Paul, you're right. Last time we did this in a hurry, but now we have had the summer to plan. I spend approximately half of my day learning something new over the summer. And today I will be learning at least 1 hour in one of the seminars somewhere where an expert speaks. So yes, tech agility, let's translate it in the classroom to learning agility. And that translates to workplace. So in the workplace, we are expected. So not taking the same language, let's flip that around. How does the flip management look? Let's ask those questions of ourselves. In the business place, how do we manage ourselves? What are our ethical obligations? If we are managing teams in the current reality, how do I deal with the ethical issues of a student or an employee who's not comfortable with the camera being on? I'm in a small apartment in a 4x4 room, and I must respect the privacy of the rest of my household and my children. Well, given all of that, my workers are humans too. And so that I need to learn today in the classroom how I feel, the importance of compassion, the importance of empathy, and actually apply it in the workplace. What are my ethical responsibilities as a manager? There must be several in our audience that manage teams. When it comes to work-life balance, what do I do now when the workday doesn't seem to end? Those commute times that we were supposed to save are being taken over by work. And we find ourselves working way beyond the time we used to and eating into our family life and our family relationships while we are holding on to our jobs with all our might. Not easy. These are difficult questions to grapple with. I have the luxury as an academician to deal with it theoretically in the classroom. But you have the practical responsibility of applying it every day. Learn in the classroom, but apply it with responsibility. We teach knowledge in the classroom. We give you tools. We hope that we also give you the ability to think critically and apply these tools ethically. Paul?
Sorry, I was muted. Those are some great answers, and I think there's no easy solutions to all these things. We're all still figuring this out as we go along. Hopefully, like you both mentioned, your students are the ones that are going to take this into the future, and kind of we're going to learn from them a little bit as well. So one thing I want to bring up, because this has been talked about and will continue to be talked about, a lot of people believe technology will enable a future where a lot of learning is online, which is the case now. You can learn a lot of things online. To Dr. Beheshti's point, though, that's not necessarily vetted information. And some question what the role of schools and universities will be learning all kinds of paid or professional learning. What do you see as the role of the university in the future and the value of a university education?
I want our audience to stop and think about 10 years ago, we had the mass open online classes, MOOCs. Several of us registered in it. It looked like that was going to be the solution to all our problems. The pendulum swung. We realized large classrooms were not serving our purpose, and the faculty-student interaction and collaboration was getting reduced. And eventually we sat and we're back at brick and mortar. I don't know the answer to the question what the post-pandemic reality is going to look like for you or for me. As time goes by, are we going to rely more and more on technology for teaching and learning? I hope so, because this gives us advantages of synchronous and asynchronous learning. You learning not only at your pace, the way Babak mentioned, but also on your own time. And so it's not necessary to join a lecture while it is on. You can always review it later, or you could do one better. Attend the class synchronously and review it asynchronously. Remember, to the professor, this gives tremendous ability to adapt their teaching and learning style to the point where they are not the sage on stage that Babak spoke about, but actually collaborating with their students in the learning process. These changes are going to happen, whether we like it or not. Essentially, I'm telling you that I'm going to write myself out of my own job. Google wants to start their own certification programs. SUNY Old Westbury has micro-credentials. Check us out. And certificate programs. These are stackable micro-credentials. That seems to be the wave of the future. Academe has always been slow, Babak pointed out, but the pace that we have shown when it came to our student-centered response has been absolutely amazing. My faculty and I can be very proud of the fact that we moved very quickly. Question is, are we going to be left breathless? Will we be able to sustain it? I believe that we will have to, yet the pace right now is on a sprint. I don't know if this is going to last us for the entire length of the marathon. But Babak, you might have other perspectives on this.
Thank you. No, actually, this is a great question and a great answer to it, Raj. It's a very relevant question because not to sound alarmist, but higher education is really facing an existential question. I mean, the model of the higher education, at least the modern university that has prevailed for the past 300-400 years, is seriously being questioned. There are economic forces at place. Many colleges may not survive this a couple of years down the road. There's going to be consolidations. There's going to be a reckoning in terms of tuition modeling, federal, state government role in support of higher education, et cetera, et cetera. So going back to your question, there are some things that colleges and universities are designed for and they're very good at, right? So creation of new knowledge and dissemination of knowledge is really the core mission of universities. Yes, there are many companies that, large companies that are getting into that arena, but what I see is that it's going to be in form of a partnership with colleges and universities. So we need to be in the higher education a lot more agile in terms of recognizing what are the trends in terms of the market demand and you know, our customers, essentially the industry that receives our you know, students, our products, and work out strategies that are beneficial to the students, to the industry, and obviously by definition to us. So one example would be the concept of micro-credentials and stackable credentials that Raj mentioned, right? I don't see the traditional 4-year, you know, 5-year undergraduate degrees, 1- or 2-year graduate degrees to go away overnight. But there's some practical issues. A lot of adult learners, a lot of non-traditional learners, because of economic reasons, work obligations, family obligations, were pretty much locked out of the arena of higher education because they couldn't afford to come spend 4 or 5 days a week on campus in classrooms. So this digitalization of education, this remote access has actually opened up opportunities for a whole new sector of learners that were locked out of it. Universities need to seize on it, need to understand the opportunity and provide relevant education to these students. If it is digital and if it is remotely accessible, does it really have to be a 4-year degree? You know, if I already have my 4-year degree, if I have my master's degree, and now there's a new technology, there's a new skill set that I need to master, maybe you know, getting a micro-credential, a certificate, some badge would be sufficient to demonstrate my mastery of that particular skill set. So that's, I think, where universities are going to emerge in their new form. Still creation of knowledge, research is going to be, you know, the bread and butter of the faculty. So that is going to be there. But now a much richer portfolio of program offerings by universities. And I'll tell you, with all of the economic sort of pressures that are on the higher education, university administrators are as keen as anybody else to figure out ways to maintain the fiscal viability of the universities. So at least all of the stars are aligned, you know, for this really fundamental shift in higher education to take place.
Yes, and I like the notion of innovation. The idea that this pandemic is an accelerant for us to achieve new things, do old things in new ways, is an amazing opportunity for innovation, even for us, as Babak put it, not my words, glacial pace at which academia works. Your point is very well taken. Knowledge creation and generation is absolutely essential to what we do. This summer, my faculty had to conduct research and successfully do so completely online. In the chat, there was a question that came up as you were speaking, Babak, which spoke about financial viability of our institutions. I believe that in many cases, we were not managing ourselves very well already. This pandemic might have just exposed the fault lines, so to speak, in what we were trying to achieve. The other question that's close to my heart is that of students with special needs who have learning disabilities, and we must address it. Yes, as a teacher, that is absolutely essential. I can tell you that in my institution, we are shooting for tremendous accessibility innovations and applications that make our education available to all learners despite any challenges they face. That's one. And two is the notion of the digital divide. In my student body, there might be students that run into issues with bandwidth, access to internet, or simply access to hardware. SUNY Old Westbury is doing everything we can. We are providing digital solutions and laptops and devices, anything that we can do to help our students to the best of our ability. Remember, in my case, apart from my students being my customers, my stakeholders include the taxpayers. They entrust their children and their money, pay my salary to take care of their education. So I must be accountable to all my constituents, no matter what their challenges are. And by the way, that's wonderful learning in terms of when I go to my workplace as an employee or as a manager, I must be aware of all these learning disabilities and challenges that don't just vanish. We bring them with us to our organizations. Are we mindful of that? Are we paying attention in our organizations to the social responsibility that we must address? Paul?
Yeah, that's a very good point about the digital divide, and that's something that everyone should be concerned about, because as we all adapt to this way of working, not everybody has the same access, and there's already a lot of inequality, and that just makes it potentially more. I'm going to take some questions that people have been putting in the chat, in the Q&A or in the chat. So one from George: any prospect for employment opportunity, assuming someone has interest in working for a tech company in Long Island City? I think both of you, right, would have potential students that might be interested in a job in Long Island City?
Absolutely. Locally, regionally, and now one of the advantages of working from home remotely, nationally, internationally, it doesn't really matter. But yes, we have a whole horde of students that are well-trained, well-educated, eager to take on internships and jobs. So please do get in touch with us. I'm sure our email addresses will be shared, and I would love to hear from you. Babak?
Yes, yes, and yes, absolutely. So, it is, our mission statement to really, provide a career opportunity, upon graduation for our students. So, we both universities, we're lined up with our career services, with, our infrastructure to provide pipelines to the industry. So we are hungry. We're always welcoming these opportunities. And I think, as Raj said, you'll be amazed the quality of students that are coming out in the recent years from our institutions. So absolutely, please get in touch with us.
And remember, we are, Babak, your students and mine are competing with folks that are waiting for jobs, that are experienced and out of a job and looking for opportunities. To my students, I always point out that my inability to change and adapt is directly proportional to the gray in my beard. And so to that extent, I have a young workforce that is teaching, that is learning, that is operating, as Babak said, as digital citizens. So we have an advantage there that can match the experience of folks that are in the job market with greater skills, so to speak. Plus, the satisfaction of continuing to educate our children. You as managers, you as entrepreneurs, you as business owners must take pride, if not right away, down the road, looking back at the growth and development you have made possible among our young students. I think that's our social and moral responsibility as well. Paul?
Yeah, thank you both for that. Again, I'll give a pitch for LISTnet. One of the things we do is make these connections easier for Long Island companies. You become part of the community. Your voice can be heard by these universities because we provide feedback on what employers are looking for. So I'll give another pitch for our own organization and invite everyone to check us out at listnet.org. Question from Jody: will working from home become more mainstream, and how does working from home affect businesses, especially commercial real estate? What are your guys' thoughts on, working at home? I think has already started to become mainstream, but how will it affect businesses overall?
So I'll quickly share my thoughts with it. I think it's here to stay. You've heard a number of companies, tech companies, that already have announced that they're going to go permanently work from home. It is not possible for every industry. There are some industries that, health professions, it's not really easy to work from home, right? So, but many other industries have recognized that the taboo that it was, that, oh, they're going to go home and they're not going to really be engaged in work, has actually proved to be opposite, as Raj mentioned, right? We now having a hard time separating work and home. We start as soon as we wake up, and until late hours in the night, we're involved in work-related activities. So yes, it is for many business sectors, it is the way of the future. It adds to the productivity that the employer expects from the employees. Cuts down on the commute, cuts down on the environmental impact of driving and whatnot to work. And some could argue opposite to that. It somewhat improves the quality of life for the family, because now you're not separated from your family, from your young children for extended periods of time during the week. And I would say that it is going to add, to the bottom line in terms of the businesses are concerned. Yes, it's going to impact commercial real estate. There's not going to be as much need to have acres and acres of office space for your employees, maybe much smaller footprint. so that, there would be regular office visits and so forth, but majority will be working from home. Europe has experienced it, and I don't see why we will not follow really the same trend. Raj?
Also, let's look at how our expectations of our teammates, our employees, in my case, our students. Let's look at the impact of our demands on their time. I believe it's not proportionate for the two genders. I have students that are sandwiched between parents and children, and they have to care for both of those while they are attending classes from home. Not easy. I'm sure you know someone who is carrying a disproportionate amount of responsibilities for childcare, for household chores, and the expectation at work hasn't changed. That's a tough place to be in. We must have a sense of compassion and rethink our ethics in the workplace. I think that's the clarion call of this particular time. The learning from this pandemic in terms of reducing our footprint and working from home can be a curse if we don't watch out. And so we'll have to see how that proceeds from that point. Paul?
Okay, thank you. We have time for a couple more questions. One from Joanna, which I think is an important one. How do your institutions partner with the corporate world to place students? But I would also extend that and say, partner with the corporate world also to commercialize technology or research that you guys are doing. How do you generally interact with the corporate world on Long Island or beyond?
So we have professional staff in our team that deal with connecting with external engagement. I have a director of external engagement that constantly is in conversation. We have a School of Business advisory board where we invite executives to come in and tell us what to expect in the job market. And we are going to have a retreat, for instance, in October, a visioning retreat that looks 5 years down the road. And we are not talking. Our faculty is listening in those sessions as to what we must do to prepare the workforce 5 years down the road. The interesting thing also is that we have businesses that come in and partner with us while our students are preparing for the job market. There's tremendous satisfaction in serving as an executive in residence who constantly train students. We have workshops and seminars on preparing resume, preparing for interviews, so that when my students go out there, they put their best foot forward and come across being able to showcase the great learning that our faculty are able to provide in the classroom. So we're doing this in all different ways. We have partnered with Handshake, which is a professional organization that also keeps pace with the needs of the industry and tells us where our students could serve as interns and jobs. So we got a variety of different ways. Check out our website. But remember, this is a part of our mission, to train a workforce that is relevant to what the future holds. Not just the first job, but the second, the third, and hopefully an entrepreneurial spirit that starts employing others rather than being an employee. Babak?
Thank you, Raj. So this is a great question. So as you heard from Raj, so universities are doing a lot of innovative things to really create a robust connection between the higher education, the universities, and the industry, the consumers of our graduates. I will add one very, very successful approach that we've taken, and we're very proud of it. So the College of Engineering at New York Tech created the ETech, Entrepreneurship and Technology Innovation Center, back in 2016-17. The ETech's mission is really twofold. One, it's supposed to be a business incubator. So we've had a number of startup companies that actually have started their initial operations from within ETech, and used our resources, our real estate, as well as the expertise to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. But also, it has become a maker space and a and it goes really to the extension of the question that Paul brought in. It has become an interface point between us and the industry. So we have engaged in a number of projects that, there were problems that our partners in the industry were facing, and we're working together on those. We have had situations where our industry partners came and they asked for certain skill set or certain talent for internship and so forth. And eTech became really the pipeline for that. So we do have an internship training program so that we just don't put our students cold in a company, and we sort of help them out learn how the business world is different from the classroom environment. And I would add something that we're very much proud of. Within the context of eTech, so far we've had 6 or 7, and I could be wrong, the number keeps increasing, companies that have been formed by our own students. So so the typical scenario is a student walks into eTech, he says, I have this idea, I want to, productize it. We say, well, go knock yourself out. They use the resources that I said. It's an extensive maker space. Take it from cybersecurity to circuit fabrication, 3D printing, green technologies, et cetera, et cetera. So they come up with a prototype of their product, and we help them out actually forming their company. And it's their company, they own the intellectual property. But what better way actually to have a sort of fertile ground for our students to be permanently connected to their alma mater by starting their startup companies from here. So yes, career services and a lot of other traditional venues that have worked in the past will continue to be in place, but also take a look at the specific strategies that certain universities are taking to really go above and beyond to make that connection, research-wise, sort of technology, problem-solving-wise, as well as really creating a pipeline of talent to the industry.
Yeah, thank you both. And the topic near and dear to my heart, because when I talk about a tech ecosystem, those are exactly the things I mean, and those are the kind of things that benefit everybody, especially as we start to see more people seeming to want to live on Long Island now as well. Okay, another question from Nectar. What's the latest techie must-have for office workers, learners, teachers, some of the computer technology or software that has become essential to this new way of working?
Thank you, Raj. So I would say one thing that really has made the professional that's working from home today a lot more fortunate than many years ago is the prevalence of open source software. So you can be very, very productive and have, essentially the latest tools without shelling out, hundreds or thousands of dollars, to have the right software, right? So think about the bare minimum. You obviously need a good working laptop or desktop, depending on what your needs are, to have that platform of connectivity. Yes, tablets and smartphones are good, but you wouldn't want to have a business meeting with, your shaky cell phone, moving around. Good webcam and audio-visual quality is very important. We've been talking about digital divide. Having a reliable high-speed internet access, it's a necessity now. Again, you wouldn't want to be in the middle of a business meeting and, your video gets choppy, your audio would be, unrecognizable. Your customers, your clients will run out of patience very quickly. And I would say depending on, again, your particular business sector, the very basic office productivity suite, right? So a good word processor, spreadsheet, et cetera, you could have it through your, favorite commercial entity, Microsoft or not, or go with Open Office, which is completely open source and free. Your operating system, again, you could use Windows. And, if you're a Windows person, or you could go for Linux. Nowadays, Linux has fantastic open source, Windows-like operating systems that would help you out. And of course, now you need software appropriate for a specific technology or business sector. Some, unfortunately, are still the good ones, or the robust ones are the ones that you have to purchase. But if you look hard enough, you will notice that there's many of them that have clones or competitors that are open office. I'll just mention one example, and I'll end it with that. Matlab has been, for example, the tool for many professionals in terms of mathematical modeling and a computation tool. There is an open source version of it called Octave that pretty much has the same capabilities, but it costs you $0. So look carefully. Look what are the specific software that are necessary for your particular sector, and then see if there's open source versions of those available. Raj?
So thank you. Yes, and I must just add two more basic elements to that, which is based on what Babak said earlier. We are not short of information. There's plenty out there. So the first thing we must do is develop a sense of discernment, is to be able to discern which is useful, which is not. Secondly, there is no dearth of tools. There's plenty of tools available. The future belongs to somebody who understands technology, but does know which tool to use to solve which problem. That is the challenge we are facing in our classrooms, to teach our students how to think critically, communicate effectively, and make those decisions ethically. That's not easy. A question that somebody asked is, what is your competitive advantage over similar programs and institutions? Yes, educational institutions must answer that question as well. In my case, simple answer: small classrooms, one-on-one interaction with world-class faculty. The notion of building on a liberal arts-based education that teaches one to think life rather than just livelihood. Don't be worried about the next meal. Be able to have a vision for what's coming 5 years down the road. Be ready for your second, third, and fourth job rather than the very first one. Those are our competitive advantages when we provide an education that's also great value as a state school.
So, thank you, Raj. I'll just give Babak one moment to answer. We have to wrap up this, but Babak, you want to mention some of the competitive advantage for NYiT? You're muted.
Finally, I got snared by the trap of mute. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So it's, again, there's no sort of perfect solution for every learner, every student. Public institutions, state university systems provide wealth of opportunities and advantages. Economically, obviously they're affordable in terms of tuition. But private institutions also provide a complementary set of opportunities and advantages. And there are, of course, some institutions that are sort of, in the cross-section of the two. But the types of things that I would bring up, and very much proud of it, are our individualized sort of attention to the students, small classroom. For the many years that I taught, I knew every student in my classroom by the first name by the second or third week of classes, whereas where I graduated from, I was sitting in classrooms with 300 students, which was a lot harder for anyone to establish a one-to-one relationship with their instructors. We have invested heavily in world-class faculty. Just to give you an idea, we have faculty that have achieved awards and secured grants from government agencies, most prestigious entities that are known in the higher education. And their most productive peak actually has been during this COVID period. So what does it translate? It translates to the students in the classroom to have access to really to the cutting edge in their particular disciplines and various fields. And I will just be remiss if I don't repeat myself what we mentioned before. Without a robust connection to the business world, to the industry, we're going to be living the silo of, ivory towers of higher education. You see, both SUNY Old Westbury and New York Tech, we pride ourselves of being very connected to the business world, to the industry, so that our students do see themselves connected to a job very soon, once they graduate. And that's basically what I would want to add in here in the interest of time.
So I want to say thank you, Dr. Behesti, Dr. Devasagayam, both of you for participating today, for being part of the community overall. Someone had asked, we didn't have a chance to get to it, any about resources for older learners or experienced learners. Both schools have programs for continuing education and other people. I would tell you, check out their websites and also give them a call. They'd be happy to give you a bunch of information and a bunch of learning that you can do for those of us that have already graduated or looking to expand our knowledge. And thank you everyone for attending. I'll turn it back over to Elizabeth to close us out.
Yes, thank you very much for being here with us. We were so lucky to have such incredible experts and such an important conversation. Thank you to all of our attendees for joining us. I do want to let you know that this was recorded and it will be available on the Schneps Media YouTube channel in about 24 hours. And you can see what other webinars we have going on at schnepsmedia.com/webinars. But thank you so much for being here today. I wish you all to stay safe, to stay healthy, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.